Welcome back to the Golf Dudes podcast. We are delighted to be joined by the head professional at Louisquisset Country Club, Anthony Loiselle. I know he was on the Expand Your Brand podcast earlier this year, back in, I think, June, but we're happy to have him back on the Golf Dudes podcast for his debut appearance here. Anthony, thanks so much for taking some time today.
You got it, Joe. Thanks for the invitation. I know I've enjoyed your content for a long time now, and when I saw the text, I was happy to do it. So I appreciate it very much.
No, I've only been to Louisquisset like once or twice, but I have to say the view that you have from your pro shop looking out has to be one of the great views in golf. I mean, how do you ever just like stand there and just like, oh, I just not gonna work today. I'll just stand here and look out the window all day.
It's funny that it's funny you say that. Not like the same crew of sales reps were kind of in here for a long time prior to me. I kind of had an overhaul of different vendors in the golf shop. So someone that I bounce ideas off of a lot and I'm very friendly with is John Lano. He's the rep for Ahead and a few other companies. And he came down and he was just looking at the view. He said, do you ever get tied up just sitting out here? And I was like, not like I know I was an assistant here for a few years before, and I mean I just kind of got used to it. But sometimes walking out of the shop, running around in the midst of it, it's a very unique facility. It's really pretty. That's as much as the golf course isn't like this 9-hole championship layout with like these, like the conditions are, they're very good, but they're not like, like a premier club. They're very good, but I mean, it's a very unique course and it's got some nuance that really makes it special. So all the time that happens, to tell you the truth.
I would just be stuck like daydreaming out there all day, just watching. You also put some grass down and just like just like tee one up if you really wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could be dangerous, I guess. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've only been to Louisquisset a handful of times, but I noticed the one thing I noticed was the view looking out of the pro shop and down to, I'm not even sure what, I couldn't tell you what hole that is coming down.
Yeah, it's the first fairway of the 9th fairway to your left, the 7th tee, and the 6th green. So it's funny from like a work perspective, you can kind of like
see everything.
Not manage pace of play perfect, but you can kind of get those touch points of where people are. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So last month, you put up some big news for yourself, for your own career. You became a Class A teaching professional with the PGA of America. Talk about, I don't think a lot of people know what that process is like. It's not just like a one-day thing. You've obviously been at this for a long time. But just talk about what that process was like and how, obviously it's a big deal, but how big of a deal is that for you in your career going forward?
So I can get into how I got it, but one thing I can say as far as it being like a big deal for my career, it's a big deal for me on like professionally and personally. So professionally, obviously, like it's the highest, not honors, the highest, say, like certification or education you can be to being a golf professional. And so so you can be a golf professional without being a Class A, but I mean, it's industry standard. And, pretty much like if you want to be at premier clubs, you need to get your Class A. And so, I did that. It's very helpful from an education perspective. I mean, you're not going to learn, half of the things that you would just, working in golf shops. I mean, the PGA really does a good job, especially with the program that I was in 3.0. I mean, some of the content in those manuals, I mean, I use like to this day in my, policy and procedures, that kind of thing. So as far as getting your Class A, that's pretty important, for a golf professional. But, it's funny that you're a Kirkbride guy, a Kirkbride member. I was actually at Kirkbride for the Rhode Island PGA chapter meeting earlier in October. And on the drive there, I mean, especially in that Facebook post, I think it's pretty clear that being a Class A meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt that way. And when I had conversations with guys when I was in the program, people I worked for, like getting my Class A meant a lot to me. And I was it's funny, on the ride there, I was digging into why it meant a lot to me. And not that I realized, I think I kind of always knew it was there. But the reason it means so much to me is because of the people I worked for. If you look at like if you drop by my LinkedIn and you look at the places I've worked for a lot of really incredible professionals. I worked for Kyle at Rhode Island, Reed Besh was at Rhode Island, Matt Walsh, Nate Adelson. The list goes on and on. I worked for Dan Shepard at Fall River. and they were all Class A PGA professionals. And like the first person I think back to, it's funny, he's just elected the president of the Rhode Island chapter, is Nate Adelson. So I was an intern my freshman year of Coastal Carolina, when I was in like the PGA university program. And I remember working that internship, and Nate was the lead assistant. He was the head professional that year, and Matt went to director of golf. And I remember working that summer, and it was like, it's funny to say, like, Nate was someone that he was a role model. He was a very good example of someone that I wanted to be, to be teaching, the relationship he had with the members. And for whatever reason, with all the people that I worked for, that summer really stuck with me. As much as I was like a young 19-year-old kid, just cleaning clubs and working in the golf shop, like that's something I'll never forget, is just seeing how he interacted with members, and just the quality at which he worked. So as much as the three letters next to my name mean a ton to me, it really means a lot because of the people I worked for. Like the summer I spent working for Chris Hume at Newport National, some of the things I learned are still due to this day. I worked for Keith here. I mean, the three letters, they mean a lot to me because of the people I worked for and the Class A's. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but it's true. Like deep down, it means a lot to me because of, now I'm a PGA professional, and I get to, be very certified, and, I'm a Class A, but, I learned a lot, and it's personal for sure.
No, this is a podcast. We love long-winded answers, so that's great. If you want to keep going, I'm just kidding. The job of a PGA head pro is certainly, obviously you're busy running tournaments and stuff, but I'm sure it's changed over the years with different stuff going on and new responsibilities and things like that. Like you said, you've been a lot of places. You worked at a lot of different worked for a lot of different people. I mean, how have you seen kind of the job change or evolve over the years? So it seems like it's kind of a constantly changing gig.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I can't say I've truly seen it really evolve. I think it's evolved from a personal perspective for sure. I mean, I started, working outside and like in the bag room at Rhode Island Country Club, and it was kind of like you build up just like at any other job. Like, you learn the very basic day-to-day stuff, and then you build and you build and you build, and you get to a place where, here, like I have to, manage the golf shop. I own, the golf shop with the merchandise. You got to do the tournament schedule. You have to, manage relationships with members, that kind of thing. But it's funny. I listened to a podcast. I think it was like Fire Pit Collective. It's Alan Shipnuck a couple months ago, and he talked about golf professionals, about how everybody wants like say a search committee. They want a golf pro that tells jokes like Bob Hope, merchandises like Ralph Lauren, and plays like Tiger and teaches like Butch Harmon. And like when I heard that, I mean, I imagine just like a lot of other golf professionals, like it's like, yeah, that's exactly how it is. Like they want someone to be very good at everything. And as far as it evolving, I think the industry's kind of working the other way of now, like professionals are kind of putting up those boundaries as far as hours put in every week and things like that. But it's certainly evolved in the sense of, for me at least, of building and realizing the importance of being very competent and solid at performing in all areas of what you do. As far as you can't just be a good teacher and just be a good tournament director and that kind of thing. You kind of have to know. It's funny, you have to know all of it. You have to be very good at business. You have to be very good at managing financials. You have to be a very good teacher. You have to be able to play to a certain point for sure. You don't have to be a phenomenal player to be a very good golf professional, but you certainly have to have a lot of good qualities. So like for me, the depth of your skills really has to be there. And it's an everyday thing, learning and things like that. And it's funny to talk about the PGA. They offer specialized programs, which I'm in. And, you have to be on top of it. And, you can ruin what you just did yesterday with a bad day the next day. So you have to be on your game all the time.
Now, how often do you get, a lot of PGA professionals don't get, I mean, at least the ones that I know, which obviously are a handful, but they don't necessarily play a lot. So how is your game, and how often do you get to go out there and whack it around?
So typically we have a Tuesday night men's league. So we have like 48 players that go out on a Tuesday night. And I mean, there's never a time where everybody's here to play their matches. So I pretty much play 9 holes every Tuesday night with the members. I'll play with a different group every week. Just, I'm touching base with everybody. that kind of thing. But I'm lucky enough here where I have a very good, leadership above me as far as, my executive board and my golf committees and stuff that really understand like the duties of and the things that I need to do. So I do have the freedom to play and things like that. I haven't played in any tournaments in the last few years because, getting back to getting my class A, in my head, it's thinking whether this is wrong or right. I thought if I had time to, don't get me wrong, I played plenty, but if I had time to play, I had time to do my book work. And I wanted my class A more than anything. So if I had the time to do my book work, if I had the time to play, I'd just hammer out my book work. So I can't say a balance because there wasn't. I played when I could and when I felt convenient to, but I really did the book work. But now, as you know, I was a player in college, so I'm really going to get back into it now that I have my class A and I can play in, like all the NEPGA tournaments and things like that. So I definitely get to play enough now here, and I'm really lucky to have a very good staff with me. So if I know I'm out on the golf course when it's, not when it's, on the busier side, I'm very confident in the guys that I have. So it's we're working towards playing more for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I covered the NEPGA championship, which was at Kirkbride this year, and it was interesting because all these guys had professionals somewhere, New England obviously, but they all seemed like they all play a lot. Rich Barbarian obviously won the whole thing, but I think he shot 59 not the first day at Agawam One, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then he kind of cruised to the win after that. When you open with a first round 59, I guess the rest of the tournament is probably pretty easy.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So Sean Irons, who he's in the National Club Pro for the second year in a row. So me and him, it's funny enough, we worked together in the bag room at Rhode Island Country Club. It was both of our first jobs in golf. And then me and him worked together last year at Fall River Country Club, and me and him have grown very close. He's one of my very close friends, and we played a couple weeks before. I think it might have been less than a week before the section championship at Kirkbride, and I beat him up pretty good. And he didn't get to play a lot this summer, and you would have never pegged him to go out and shoot. I think it was 5 under in the last round, but guys do it. No, it's very underrated, the skill that is. I know there's a difference between club professionals and touring professionals, but it's still a very high level of golf played even in New England, as you can see with all the incredible players that we have in the section. So it's certainly very interesting. I get what you're saying.
Well, now, of course, head professionals came into focus this year because of the whole Michael Block thing at the
Yeah.
PGA Championship, and clearly he's a really good player, and he claims he only plays like once a week out in
Yeah.
California. But since then, he's been invited to all these different tournaments. He's going to the Australian Masters, I read, or whatever. Is that if and you guys could probably all do it. Like you said, it's you guys are obviously all great players to an extent. Is that if you personally, if you really took time and really grinded on your game, right? It got back to college Anthony, right? Could you get to that level or get to close to kind of maybe not playing in the PGA championship necessarily, but could any of you guys get to that kind of a level?
I got to tell you the truth. We can get to my game for sure, but I know, especially last year at Fall River Country Club, I was with Dan Shepard, Zane Brownrigg, and Sean Irons, and the three of them played for the national champions. They're pretty much all the time. Funny enough to say, is Methodist guys, and I saw the level they played at, and I have no doubts that Dan moved out to Seattle and Zane's in Florida now full time. So me and Sean are still very close. And I could definitely see someone like Sean playing at a very high level when he commits to his game and he has the time to and things like that. Personal stuff gets in the way, like relationships and stuff like that. Obviously, it doesn't get in the way, but it takes your time away from, beating
Right.
balls.
No,
But
you guys all have lives.
I know as far as, my friend group, I can the first person that comes to mind, I know, like obviously I'm biased because he's a good friend of mine, is Sean. I could definitely see someone like that, his game, especially with the things he's working on, get to a very, very high level. And I know I played a lot of golf with Dan last summer, when time allowed. And, Dan is someone like Michael Block who he won't hit a single golf ball and he can roll out of the shop and he can shoot, plenty under par. So, there's the talent, it's there. I think it's the matter of guys putting the time in. And then as far as my game goes, it's something that I really haven't talked about. It's that in college and pretty much like through my youth and especially in high school and stuff like that, I struggle with my weight. I was just under I was just under 290, and I sit here today and I'm 175, and it was a years long work of I was in the gym, I was watching everything I eat, I was just getting in shape, and it's an underrated thing that your golf game, you'd think it'd get like so much better when like you're in better shape. But for me personally, I wouldn't say I struggled, but it was definitely a learning experience, learning a new body. I mean, 100 pounds it really changes the way your body moves. It's funny to say that. So my golf game, I mean, I already hit a hook to begin with, and then the second my hips got in front of my upper body, I mean, that thing turned into a quacker pretty good. So I had to, really kind of learn. It's funny to say, but I had to relearn my game. So, even in college and in high school, as far as me developing my game personally, I'm very comfortable sitting here and saying I was never like this great player. Like in high school, I was all state, and I won my private divisions championship, and I was the player of the year for that section and stuff like that. But I was probably around, not to like discourage the amateur, I was probably around like a 3 or 4 handicap. And as much as that seems like it's a very good player, I mean, guys like Sean and Dan and Zane are like plus fives, like rolling out of bed. So as much as I would like to sit here and say, yeah, I want to like go hammer out my game and practice really well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can still play. I probably play off of, scratch to 1 or 2 here. I mean, the joke with, Sean and all my buddies like Nate Chim at Fall River, like if I go anywhere now and I play with a group of guys, like I'll shoot 4 over with my eyes closed. Like that's not going to win me money anywhere. But I'm interested to see where I can take it, especially now this winter. I mean, I have time to practice. I mean, my uncle Lenny, he has a body shop in Johnston, and he has a studio upstairs for a golf studio, launch monitor and stuff like that. So I can kind of practice and take some time away for myself when the courses are closed, and I don't have to be in the shop and things like that. So I'm certainly interested. I mean, I'm still in the gym every day. I'm still I'm putting forth reasonable time to my game now that I have some time to go out and practice and play. So it's just a balancing act. It's being a golf professional. It's my priorities are obviously the membership, it's tournaments, it's the golf
Right.
shop, it's making sure rounds are getting sold and people are happy, that kind of thing. But it's like life, funny, and I mean it's a balancing act. But I'm definitely gonna put some time in on my game, see where I can take it.
Yeah, I just find it interesting, especially with the Michael Block thing, kind of putting head PGA pros into focus, and obviously the NPGA watching that, and Rich Bavarian's performance. So I just find an interesting question to ask you guys, because obviously you guys, like you said, there's other things, there are other priorities, but you're still really good players at the core of the whole thing. So I just find that interesting. You're back at Louisquisset. You just for all intents and purposes, you wrapped up your first year back at Louisquisset. Obviously, I remember putting an article up about it when you first made the announcement. I talked to you, and it obviously meant a lot to you to be back there. What has the first year been like? How are things at Louisquisset, and what are you looking forward to doing there? In the near future or perhaps the distant future.
I can honestly say, Joe, this first year has been phenomenal. I mean, I got here and our membership was it was decreasing. So I got here, the membership was very low, and then especially with a club that usually hovers around the 150, 160 number, and we're going back many years prior. We gained 38 members this year, and for a club that was just barely over 110, I mean, to see I feel like the impact that I made on the club and my staff made on the club, and just our communication, our like interaction with the membership, and then our non-members, I think I personally think it truly made a difference, and I think it's kind of hard to argue the numbers behind it as far as member satisfaction. It's funny, we put out a member survey a few days ago, and like the responses are really phenomenal. So this first season has been great. I mean, as you can imagine, I took the job, I was 22, I turned 23 in the next month, but it was quite the learning experience, and I had my family and my friends to lean on, and it was phenomenal. There's no other way to say it. We had just as other clubs, I feel like with golf booming, I mean, financially it's going to be very good because golf is in demand right now.
Mhm.
But it was awesome, to tell you the truth. It was, the membership had a great time. The tournaments were phenomenal. Something that comes to mind as far as the club that I took from my work at Fall River Country Club was, we had nine and dines, like Twilight nine and dines. It was like a couples league, and that grew from, the first one had, I think it was 26 players, and then the last one we maxed out at 48, and we did that three times
Wow.
consecutively. So those little tidbits I can take where I had a direct influence, and I created something that legitimately was not here in the past. It's very gratifying, and it was a great season. There's no way to cut it up. It was phenomenal.
You talked about the learning experiences. What is something that you learned that perhaps you didn't even think of upon kind of taking a head pro job? Because obviously you were assistant. There's obviously, it's a jump from an assistant pro to a head pro because now you're running everything. What is something that you learned this year that perhaps you didn't even think about previously? If that makes
The
any
first
sense.
thing that comes to mind for sure is that, from an operational standpoint, at the end of the day, everything is my responsibility. So if my staff does something incorrect, or they, something, pace of play on the golf course is bad, something, as simple as that, at the very end of the day, it is completely my responsibility. That's the first thing that you, as much as, when I would imagine that other assistants take that jump to being a head professional, it hits you in the sense of, it's great that you're the head professional, and now you're, the like, for a better term, you're the face of the operation. It comes with the responsibility of it, and you truly have to wear that hat of, I'll never forget something, and I listened to over and over again. It's a Metropolitan PGA seminar with Butch Harmon, and he talks about, at the end of the day, that it's on your shoulders. You're responsible. It's, you're the boss. Like, the members are always right. You have to service them. At the end of the day, they're the ones that, if they're happy, you're all set. At the end of the day, the responsibility is on you. And I come into every situation in with the eyes of, I want to make this better for them. You kind of have to put yourself in the back seat, even if you're the one, even if they're wrong and you're right, per se. You have to massage the situation, and again, it's a day-to-day thing. It's one of those learning experiences that you just get better at over time, hopefully.
What do you think the state of, as I've been talking about this and I talked to everybody about it. I asked Ed Curry about it at the PGA, at the NEPGA thing. I asked, Brad Faxon and Billy Andre about it when I interviewed them at Buttonhole a couple months ago, whatever that was. The state of golf in Rhode Island, I feel like, it feels like to me, we're in a unique, obviously golf is booming, as you mentioned, but especially in Rhode Island, it feels like we're in a unique time for golf. We have the number of high school golf is at an all-time high. It feels like there's so much attention on it. Probably because of us, but just in general, we have a number of kids turning pro, or at least trying to turn pro, between the Will Dixons and Andrew O'Leary's and Davis Chatfield and Patrick Welch's. From your perspective, as someone who's been around and had a extensive career in golf, where do you think golf is at right now in Rhode Island? I mean, do you think this is a unique time? Do you look at it that way, or what do you think?
When you say it's a unique time in golf, I certainly think it's a unique time in golf, absolutely, because the sport is in such demand. But as far as Rhode Island goes, I don't know if you could chalk this up to just me getting older, and me, it's funny to say, maturing a little bit, and and kind of just understanding situations better, and having a different lens on just like the state of everything in general. One thing I've kind of experienced is, the older I've gotten, people have gotten a little more open and willing to chit chat and bounce ideas off of one another. It's funny that Michael Hamilton was I developed a relationship with him years
Mhm.
ago, and he's a great friend.
Mhm.
He talked about with Austin on the Expand Your Brand podcast, and Jeff, he talked about how guys in Rhode Island are more willing to bounce ideas off each other, as much as they want to cut each other's throats in competition. They're friends, and they want to build off each other, and they want it to be this golfing community. And that's something I've experienced. I know back when I did my podcast during COVID, my uncle and myself had relationships with people like Eugene DeSaro, who won the stroke play, Jamie Lukowitz, guys like that. And they're putting yourself out there, it's tough because, I was a young kid. I'm still a young kid. I think I talk like I'm old, but I'm not. It's tough to put yourself out there and say, hey, like, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to learn. But like, once you do that, guys are really open to talk about it. Just things like this, just like me talking to Austin. I played a practice round for the state amateur at Kirkbride with Austin Silly, Bruce Hederick, and Derek Audette. And when you're out there, those first couple questions are tough, but once you ask a couple times, you notice that everybody's willing to talk about it. It's not this big thing like, oh, like there's Jamie Louisquisset over there, like he's one of the best players in the state. Like, I'd love to pick his brain. Like if you go up to Jamie, he'll probably answer all your questions, and he'll probably answer all of them like legitimately. Guys aren't, gatekeeping. If you put yourself out there, they will answer your questions, and people are very friendly. As much as everyone's a competitor and they really want to win. At the end of the day, golf's a social sport. You want to have fun. It's at the end of the day, it's a fun thing. It's you don't win $1 for winning the state amateur. You get a trophy, and there's pride in it, and I totally get that. But golf's very rewarding in the sense of it's like the self-developing game as much as it's ego boost to win the trophy and have your name on like the RIGA website and stuff like that. But I just think that's unique to Rhode Island. As far we're the smallest state in the country, and especially imagine we're the golf association in the state. So it's that's just been my perspective of it, and it's been super rewarding for me. I mean, I'm sitting here and I still have relationships with all of those people. So it's certainly wanted to keep me in the industry, and I've loved it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I found too is in launching GolfNewsRI in 2020. For the most part, everyone's been really helpful. And if I want to interview somebody, if I want, Mike Hamilton's obviously been huge. So I've known him since high school. So he's always around. He always texts me back. So do all these other guys, Tommy McCormick's and the Jay Barrows and Jamie Louisquisset. I talk to these guys, a lot. But that's the thing I found too is that most people are willing to help you or at least try to help you, if you ask. And so that's been the cool thing for me as well. So I probably second that opinion. And obviously we're in different areas, but people are still willing to help you or willing to give you an interview or come on a podcast or do an interview after their round or whatever, if you ask. And that's one of the things I had to not get over, but learn is that because now I'm on my own. You have to go out and get the interviews on by yourself. Or Andrew O'Leary always texts me back, and he's trying to make it in the pros, but he always texts me back if I ask him a question or something. So that's been the coolest thing for me too, for sure. And for golf, it's been obviously huge for GolfNewsRI as well. What are you looking forward to next? What are you looking forward to? Are you still going down to Florida part-time, or is that I'm sure you've talked about this before, but are you still doing the part-time thing, the seasonal job in Florida, or
I won't be.
No,
I won't be. I'm gonna take the winter off for sure. I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna call in those favors. I'm gonna go play with
there you go.
all my buddies down there. So I have guys on the east and west coast of Florida playing some tournaments down there in the winter series and stuff like that. So I do not plan on working in the wintertime. So
there you go. I mean, you did work in Florida for a time, at least seasonally. I think at John's Island Club it was called.
Yep.
What was that like? I mean, is there a difference between working in Rhode Island and going out to Florida and working with those guys? I mean, obviously the jobs are the jobs similar? Are they different responsibilities? Is Florida golf different? What is that whole experience like?
I bet you Florida in the wintertime certainly is different. I know. So I was at John's Island Club, and
Yep.
John's Island Club, the facility, you have a north-south facility that's like the headquarters, and then there's the West Course. That's their championship. Tom Fazio, they did the multi-million-dollar design the year I was down there. So it's funny that in the wintertime at clubs like that, that is where all of the northern pros go down for the winter. To they keep working, just keep making money. Like for my case, I wanted to keep my credits going for my education credits for the PGA. So that's me and a bunch of other guys went down there. I think just at the West Course at Johns Island, we had 8 assistants down there. So you go from you're an assistant and you're like one of the guys doing. It's funny, Carl Hayes was my head professional at the West Course, and he called it the sexy work. There's, you go to your northern club and you do all the sexy work. You go in, you print scorecards, you walk around, you shake hands, you kiss babies. But then when you come down here, you work. And that's the case that's just the case in Florida. You're going to go down there to work. It's, when you're there, it's just like the summer in the Northeast. It is high volume. You are pumping out rounds. There's something going on every day. You're not going to Florida to be a snowbird. You're going down there to work. And you're going down there to work with, the cream of the crop of professionals from the North. That is especially where I was at. I was at a, pretty, premium, invitation only, member only club with, incredibly high dues. And, I was down there the year of an assessment. So, you can imagine how that is for any club. But the Florida scene, it's great. You're going to keep your experience going. You're going to learn a lot. I mean, I worked for Carl Hayes. Obviously, he won the assistants championship for the Met section, so he's one of the phenomenal player. And I learned a ton from Carl. And then it's just the relationships you build down there. I worked for Steve Nesbitt. He was our outside ops manager at the West Course, and Steve probably has one of the best resumes in the country. He worked at the Country Club, Augusta National, Jupiter Hills Club. You could go on and on. He's
I would say
phenomenal.
that's up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So we had at the West Course, we'd have a bunch of they were like talk speeches. So professionals would come in, like Joe Connerton, who's at Round Hill Club, came and he talked to all the professionals from the area. And he even joked, he's like, imagine the best resume in the room is Nezzy. That's Steve Nesbitt. It's it's incredible. My take on that, if you're an assistant up here, I wouldn't take any winners off, especially, I was young, I'm still young. I'd walk down there to, work at one of those places. Don't get me wrong, you're going to work. I'll never forget Carl Hayes on the phone during one of, my, introductory, talks with him. He said, make no bones about it. You will work. You're not going down there to, chill out and hit balls and drink beers with your buddies. You're going to work, but it's certainly rewarding. And I know I took a ton from working down there. There's things in my policies and procedures and my operating guides here that I took directly from Florida. So you learn a lot and you meet a lot of incredible people, especially the club I was at. I worked with Ben Cook, who he played in the PGA Championship. He's actually, I think he's made the cut twice. He's playing a bunch of PGA Tour events, like the Rocket Mortgage. He was an incredible player. Another example of, I got to pick his brain, working the bag drop, sitting there with him, just, bouncing things off of him. He was really cool. Tyler Collett, he played, I think he won the South Florida Player of the Year. He played in the Honda Classic. Just guys like that. I mean, you meet some incredible people working at clubs down there. Florida it's a unique place because in that time period, the premier professionals kind of head down there during their time off in the North. So I couldn't speak. If you get the chance to, especially if you're, a younger assistant out there, young as I'm 23, do it. It's phenomenal.
Awesome. So other than playing over the winter, which you're looking forward to, what is something that you're looking forward to the most? Whether it's something that you would like to do at Louisquisset or something in your career, what is something that you're looking forward to, kind of going forward here?
Especially the first thing that comes to mind as far as the club. I mean, I learned a lot this year about what the members like as far as tournaments and some things they don't prefer. So as far as next year, the tournament schedule that we're kind of putting together right now with the tournament committee, I can see myself like directly improving on how that's going to go. And then standard stuff like operationally, like very simple stuff that you overlook. It's like next year, I want to do the ordinary things extraordinarily well. It's funny how that's like, tongue in cheek and it's like a quote, but I truly do. And I think there's areas for me to directly improve on that. Like, it's everyone this year thinks that this year was phenomenal. It's one of the best years the club's had in 20 years. Some of the members say. I think next year I can do an even better job. So I'm really looking forward to that, just on an operational level. And then as far as me personally, I know I got my Class A, and that's been my like not my North Star, but that's like I wanted those 3 letters next to my name more than anything, and I got it. And it means, as I said before, it means so much to me. But I'm going through the PGA Specialized Program for Golf Operations. I'm a member of the Association of Golf Merchandisers. I'm in their Certified Retail Manager program. And one thing I can't speak highly enough about is those programs, as much as like you think, oh, you get your Class A, like you're done, like you have your ticket, like you're done. These programs truly have like some incredible information that are going to help you day to day. Just like I would tell young guys going through the program now, just like me, just like I did, rather. Instead of trying to just hammer it out, actually take I'm like, absolutely do it like at a good pace. You want to get it sooner than you don't, but truly try to take in some of that information because it's very good. It's not like, you need it and that's it. Like, you do need it, but there's some very, very good stuff that you really need to pay attention to. That's only going to make you better at your job. And if you don't pay attention while you're supposed to be learning it, you're going to pay for it, and then you're going to learn it the hard way. So, really just try to take it in. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is to continued, professional development, to tell you the truth.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll be in touch over the course of the season and the next few seasons or whatever it may be. So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And look forward to seeing the pictures that you post from your golf rounds in Florida.
You got it, Joe. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
That's Anthony Loiselle, the head pro at Louisquisset Country Club, joining us here on the Golf Dudes podcast. Thanks to him, and we'll be right back.